Spartan and Peloponnesian Studies, and the chair of SPECS, our new global network for early career scholars engaged in the study of any aspect of the history, archaeology, and reception of Sparta and the Peloponnese across any period. This evening, we are absolutely delighted to welcome Dr. Aphrodite Vlachou of the Amykles Research Project, who will be speaking to us about bronze dedications in the early phases of cult at the site. Aphrodite earned her degree in history and archaeology from the University of Thessaly, Volos, and pursued museum studies at the University of Athens. She completed her PhD at the University of Thessaly in 2019, focusing her dissertation on the geometric and early archaic sanctuaries of the Peloponnese. During her doctoral studies, she received scholarships from the Foundation for Education and European Culture and the German Academic Exchange Service. She has held postdoctoral research positions at the Ionian University between 2019 and 2021 and the University of Munster in 2024. Her fieldwork experience includes archaeological projects in Oropos, Magnesia, and the Cyclades. As an archaeologist with the Effort of Antiquities of Laconia, she conducted excavations at the Acropolis and the Agora of ancient Sparta. Since 2020, she has served as a scientific collaborator for the Amykles Research Project, which oversees the systematic excavation of the Sanctuary of Apollo Amyklaios on the Agia Kyriaki hill south of Sparta. From 2022 to 24, she participated in the project Archaeological Geophysical Prospection at the Sanctuary of Apollo Amyklaios near Sparta, supported by the State Scholarships Foundation and the German Academic Exchange Service. Recently, she was selected as an early career fellow for the 2026-27 academic year at Harvard University's Center for Hellenic Studies, where her research will focus on votive traditions, ritual practices, and cultural exchange in early Sparta, with particular emphasis on the Amyklaion bronzes, which is exactly what she's going to speak to us about today. So with no further ado, Aphrodite, the virtual floor is all yours.
Thank you, Matt. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to warmly thank Matt for inviting me to talk in this new webinar series he's organizing, and for which I'm wishing him every success. I also want to thank the Center for Spartan and Peloponnesian Studies and Professor Hyakinthia Vlachou for offering me this opportunity today to present my research on the Amykleian bronzes. And so I will start the presentation. Next, for Matt, and next again. The Sanctuary of Apollo Amyklaios is located on the top of the low hill of Agia Kyriaki on the west bank of the Eurotas River at a distance of 5 kilometers south of Sparta. It is one of the most important and long-lived Spartan sanctuaries, offering evidence of cultic activity spanning from the Mycenaean through the Archaic period and continuing into Roman times. Based on the study of the early Iron Age pottery assemblages by Aphrodite Vlachou, it appears that from around the mid-10th to the late 8th century BC, ritual activity at Amykles have maintained an open-air character. The predominance of drinking shapes throughout these early phases show that feasting formed a central part of the ritual expression at Amykles, following the examples of many other early Greek sanctuaries. Next, in the second half of the 8th and early 7th century BC, the growing range and the increasing number of votive offerings on the hill suggest an intensification in cultic activity, possibly in relation to the Hyakinthia festival celebrated annually at the site. During this period, the first major construction at the sanctuary was the erection of the earliest perivolous wall, which enclosed a large part of the hill. However, it wasn't until the 6th century BC that the site underwent a significant process of monumental development. During this period, a new perivolus was erected, encompassing the pre-existing geometric enclosure and expanding the available surface area of the hill. This expansion facilitated the construction of the circular altar and that of the famously referred as the Throne of Apollo, the most distinctive and enigmatic feature of the sanctuary. At its center stood the cult statue of the god, situated above the tomb of Hyakinthos. Next. Scholars place the cult of Hyakinthos on the hill of Agia Kyriaki much earlier than that of Apollo, suggesting a date around the end of the 9th century BC. Miniature clay vessels, often deposited as gifts to hero shrines, have been taken as ritual utensils and offerings to the heroic cult of Hyakinthos. The arrival of the cult of Apollo has been partly recognized in the material collected from the early excavations at the site. The oldest evidence is an inscription incised on the handle of a now lost bronze object dedicated to Apollo by a person named Dorkonida, dated to the very end of the 7th century BC. According to Angeliki Petropoulou, the basic features of the cult of the divine pair had taken shape already by the time the throne was constructed, by then the end of the archaic period. The next slide. The 1890 excavation by Christos Tsoudas at Agia Kyriaki marked the start of research at the Amyklaion and identified the site through roof tiles naming Apollo Amyklaios. 3 later campaigns follow, in 1904 and 1907 by Adolf Furtwängler with Ernst Fichter under the Archaeological Society at Athens, and in 1925 by Ernst Buschor and Wilhelm von Massow for the German Archaeological Institute. Since 2005, the Amykles Research Project has undertaken new excavations at the Amyklaion, led by Angelos Delevorias and then by Stavros Blizos, initially under the auspices of the Benaki Museum and the 5th Ephorate of Prehistoric and Classical Antiquities, and subsequently under that of the Archaeological Society at Athens. Already from the old excavations on the hill, pottery constitutes the predominant group of archaeological evidence. However, the notable presence of bronze artifacts in the sanctuaries deposits not only reveals the diversity of the activities at the site, but also highlights the significant role these objects played in the votive traditions at Amykles. The next one, and again the next one. In the 3rd book of the description of Greece, Pausanias describes the colossal xoanon of Apollo having the form of a bronze column to which a face, hands, and feet were added, with a bow in one hand and a spear in the other, possibly dated to the end of the 7th or early 6th century BC. He also mentions the bronze door of its monumental base, bronze tripods, and 3 oversized tripods, under which the statues of Artemis, Aphrodite, and Kore were positioned, providing us with valuable insights into both the existence of bronze artifacts and constructions within the sanctuary and the contribution of famous artists like Hitiadas and Kalon from Aegina. The next, please. As regards the archaeological evidence, Tsoudas was the first who published the excavation results from the Amyklaion in 1892, including a selection of the most noteworthy finds, among which several bronze objects such as vessels, jewellery, and bronze seats. Some of them were catalogued by André de Rider 2 years later, while various bronze objects from the Amyklaion are included in the Sparta Museum catalogue published by Marcus Todd and Alan Weiss in 1906. The 1927 publication by Buschor and von Massow presented a more substantial assemblage, including votive armor, parts of bronze vessels and tripods, several embossed bronze seats, and many bronze rings. The majority of them has been dated to the period from the late 10th to the mid-8th century BC. The next one. A critical reassessment of the earlier excavation material was undertaken by Petros Kalligas in 1992. Kalligas identified several noteworthy objects, including a pin that may date to the protogeometric period. Finally, Stephen Hodgson and Conrad Stibbe offer comprehensive analysis of the bronze objects situating the Amyklaion within the wider context of Laconian bronze production and votive practice. The next slide. Within the framework of the ongoing Amykles Research Project, significant new evidence has come to light, offering crucial insights into the sanctuary's architecture and ritual life. Large assemblages of early Iron Age pottery and numerous bronze votives, mainly jewellery, were recovered along the southern sections of the 2 enclosure walls, though from unstratified deposits. The next, not slide, but yes, okay. Of particular interest, however, are the results from the most recent excavation research at the southwestern sector of the sanctuary. Trenches that were opened along and to the south of the newly discovered late geometric early archaic perivolos wall brought to light rich archaeological layers with stratigraphical sequence. Late Bronze Age, protogeometric, geometric, and early archaic pottery in the lowest layer, while the next layer above contained pottery dated until the mid-6th century BC, with the most characteristic features to be the thousands of miniature vessels, mostly ariballoi, studied, and I have to say counted one by one, by Adrien de Lahaye. Metal objects were found in both layers, with a greater concentration in the lower one. Bronze cheek pieces of helmets, bronze seats decorated with incised geometric motifs, bronze beads, rings, and earrings were found together with iron obeloi and iron tools, terracotta figurines, lead miniatures, and a notable group of bone votive offerings. The next one. Ongoing archaeological fieldwork has revealed that bronze objects constitute a distinct and significant group of material in the Sanctuary of Apollo Amyklaios. The main categories resulting from the study of the material are jewellery, human and animal figurines, tripod legs and tripod attachments, weapons and pieces of armor, several rectangular bronze seats with punched decoration, a few examples of vessels, and a variety of small objects, including bronze wheels, disc-shaped objects, fragments of bronze mirrors, a stylus, a bronze olive leaf, and some more. Before we move to the presentations of the jewellery, which will be the main focus of today's talk, it is worth briefly highlighting some of the most notable finds from the other categories of the bronzes. The next one. 4 8th century human statuettes published by Stavros Vlizos in 2017 were discovered in disturbed layers on the south and southeastern slope of Agia Kyriaki within the area of the geometric and archaic perivolos walls. Among them is a standing bearded lass wilder, regarded as one of the earliest known Laconian human representations. Measuring 12.5 centimeters high, it originally adorned the large ring handle of a bronze tripod, as indicated by the flat base on which the figure stands. The other three are a naked standing female figure with arms extending horizontally and legs wide apart, a warrior statuette wearing a conical helmet with raised arms, and a naked standing man with missing head and arms. Bronze animal figurines have also been recorded, such as a bull, a rabbit, and a duck, all measuring between 3 to 5 centimeters in length. The next slide. The discovery of fragments of tripod cauldrons at the sanctuary is worth noting, since they were one of the most prestigious goods concentrated on sanctuaries which served as meeting places and regional religious centers. The fragments represent both real-sized and miniature examples, and they mainly correspond to cast or hammered legs. Next. Particularly notable is an intact griffin protomy of a mixed technique, which means with head cast and the neck hammered, found in a distraction layer at the northeastern quarter of the so-called South Building. The protomy, measuring approximately 10 centimeters in height, finds close parallels in the sanctuaries of Olympia and Delphi and can be dated to the mid-7th century BC. Parts of tripod legs, along with fragments of 2 round handles and a small horse figurine, possibly from a tripod's handle, are known from the early excavations to the site. The next. Several types of armor, including arrowheads, spearheads, a double axe, dagger blades, and fragments of two cheek guards from bronze helmets, were also dedicated at the Sanctuary of Amykles, highlighting the martial aspects of the cult. The one bronze cheekpiece belongs to the type of the Kegi helm, an open-face type of helmet, and is dated to the transition from the 8th to the 7th century BC. It is made of a hammered thin bronze seat, vertical at the front and curved behind to follow the angle of the jaw. Drilled holes and one relief line are present at the edge of the neck piece. A large irregular opening observed near the curved part may have been caused by an arrow attack during a battle. The so-called Kegi helm is the earliest type of helmet found in early Iron Age Greece, dating to the late 8th century BC, and it is considered an independent invention of the Peloponnesian workshops. The earliest known example is a bronze helmet discovered in the Panoply grave in the Odeon area of Argos. It is worth noting that while many Laconian sanctuaries have produced weapon dedications, none have yielded quantities as large as those found at the Sanctuary of Apollo Amyklaios in Kyriaki. An impressive array of bronze and iron weapons, primarily spearheads and arrowheads, in both miniature and full size, have been discovered at the site. The next one. Nearly 30 bronze seats, mostly rectangular in shape and resembling those found on sanctuary sites throughout the Greek world, have been discovered at the Amyklaion. These seats typically display punch decorations with patterns consisting of parallel horizontal dots along the edges or in rows across the surface. Less frequently, they present more elaborate designs, such as the example with the egg rod surrounded by astragal garlands. Many of these examples feature small round holes, indicating that they likely served various purposes, such as clothing ornaments, silk decoration, or coating elements attached to other materials like wood. Similar bronze pieces featuring a plate pattern have been discovered in the other major Spartan sanctuaries dating to the 7th century BC. The next one. The greatest single category of bronze votive objects recovered from the Amyklaion, as I already mentioned before, is jewellery, with rings and earrings being the most abundant. Pins, earrings, pendants, hand or arm pieces of jewellery, and clothes ornaments also occur, but in lesser numbers. A comparison of the older and more recent finds suggests that the dedication of jewellery played a significant role in votive practices at the Amyklaion, similar to the Sanctuary of Artemis Orthia, and appear less frequently at the Sanctuary of Athena Chalkioikos on the Acropolis Hill. The next. The highest concentration of bronze jewellery have been identified in the southern sector of the sanctuary in association with the late geometric and archaic perivolous walls, as well as in the wider area of the altar. This spatial distribution suggests a deliberate pattern of deposition, likely associated with ritual activity concentrated in sanctuary's southern area. Some material, however, may have rolled downhill during cleaning or reorganization phases. Finds from the altar area indicate continued or secondary use of this central space for votive offerings, possibly reflecting its early function as a locus for open-air rituals. The relative scarcity of bronze jewellery and bronze objects in general on the northern and western slopes may result from late antique structures that disturbed previous archaeological layers, thereby limiting the preservation or visibility of earlier votive material. On the plan next to the figure, you can see the excavation squares where the bronze jewellery were found, and the darker the shading of the square, the greater the number of the objects recovered. And then we can move to the next one. Bronze figurines are commonly found in the sanctuaries deposits, with nearly 50 items uncovered. The rings fall into two basic types: plain rings, which are the majority, and spiral rings. The plain rings consist of simple bands, either flat or concave, in most cases thick, with a slight carination in the middle. These bands are mainly white and almost all without any ornamentation. They also vary in cross-section. Some are oval or round, some triangular, and some rectangular. Some of the rings are large enough to be worn on a finger. This suggests that they were made for dedication purposes or that they belong to the category of hair rings. The next. Simple rings have been found in graves and sanctuaries throughout the Greek world, dating from the sub-Mycenaean period onwards. Many bronze rings were found at the Sanctuary of Artemis or Thea, mostly simple of the size to fit the finger. Bronze rings were very popular also at Agia, where over 300 were unearthed in the first and the later campaigns at the site. Similar bronze rings are those from the sacrificial area of Apollo Daphniforos at Eretria, where more than 900 pieces or fragments of jewellery were found, as well as from the Sanctuary of Artemis at Anno Mazaraki. At the latter, the bronze rings were found together with pottery of the geometric period. The next. Comparison with examples from religious and burial contexts suggests that the greater number of the Amykleian rings may belong to an early chronological phase and therefore must be dated to the 9th and 8th century BC. Specifically, the earliest rings appear to be made of irregularly shaped wide bronze bands characterized by their simplicity in both style and technical features. Next. Although spiral rings have been found in many sanctuaries throughout the Greek world, dating from the 8th through the 7th century BC, at the Amykleion are very rare, since only 2 or 3 have been catalogued so far. The one found in the area of the so-called South Building is a complete ring which has 2 rotations of the band and features a snake head at the one end. Spiral rings have been uncovered at Artemis of Thea, Tegea, Perachora, the Argive Heraion, Luzoi, Olympia, and elsewhere. The next one. The hair rings revealed during the more recent excavations at the site constitute a significant set of bronze objects found in the same context with the figure rings and the other categories of bronze jewellery. About 45 items have been catalogued so far, and similarly to the figure rings, two main types occur: the simple and the spiral hair rings. The objects that belong to the first category are made of a wide, thin, or more rarely thick piece of bronze, which is rolled with overlapping edges and a rib or a thin ridge in the middle. About 13 hair rings are of spiral form, made of a bronze strip, rolled into 3 to 6 tiers, and usually with flattened endings. The next. Significant numbers of bronze hair rings are known from all the sanctuaries mentioned just before, all dated to the 8th and 7th centuries BC. Of the same form as the Amykleian examples are also those found in a late geometric pithos burial in the area of ancient Comi of Limnai in the modern city of Sparta, as well as in the votive deposit in the north sector of the Aspis Hill in Argos. The next. Just 5 pins, 2 almost intact and the other in a fragmentary state, have been recorded so far, together with 3 bronze pieces that could be attributed to pin sanks. All of the better perceived pins belong to the geometric 1 type, dating from the early through the late geometric period. The pins have a quadrangular cross-section above and below a large globe and a flat disc and finial at the top. Below the globe, the shaft changes to a round cross-section. Geometric pins of that type have been uncovered at many sites in the Argolid and Corinthia, which may indicate a local manufacture, while they are popular or very popular at the Argive Hieron, where about 350 were found. Pins of comparable type are also known from the Sanctuary of Artemis Audia, dating to the early geometric period. The next, please. Another pin belongs to the type with a ring-shaped head, finding parallels in the publication of 1927 by Busso. A bronze pin with ring-shaped head also come from a shaft grave found during the excavations in the course of the construction of the new Electro-Sparti road to the north of the modern city of Sparta. The pin was found outside the grave together with other bronze objects and pottery dated to the classical period. The next. Among the pendants found in the sanctuary, a bronze double axe with a tiny hole pierced through it was discovered in front of the southern section of the archaic Perivolos wall. Cast in one piece and nearly intact, the axe features straight edges and sides with a flat blade and traces of later hammer reworking visible on one surface. Many more examples of double axes, both bronze and bone, are known from the Artemis Orthia shrine, often with a suspension hole at the end of the handle, and similar examples are also known from the sanctuary of Athinalia at Tegea. These pieces, moreover, there are pieces from both sides decorated, from Orthia and Tegea. There are pieces decorated with punch concentric circles seen on one side. The distribution of the bronze axis with straight sides is largely concentrated in the Peloponnese, with comparatively few examples recorded from central Greece, Thessaly, or the Ionian Islands. The next one. A collection of bronze cylindrical beads, most likely from one or two necklaces, was uncovered in the southern area of the sanctuary as well. The beads vary in size and are made from a bronze strip or a band rolled into a cylinder with overlapping edges. It is suggested that the necklace consisted of 2 rows of beads ranging in length from 4 to 8 centimeters. The next one. In the items of jewellery from the sanctuary are also included 3 earrings, 1 armband, and the half of 1 bracelet. The earrings follow a simple form and a round shape made of a thin bronze strip with a rectangular cross-section. The bronze armband is perceived intact and is made of a thin and narrow bronze band, which forms a round shape with a diameter of about 8 centimeters and with flattened leaf-shaped ending at both edges. Finally, the surviving part of a bronze fibula forms a spiral with 4 turns made of circular wire, which varies in thickness. Most of the central boss attached to the spiral is perceived. In contrast to plate fibulae, which are rare, fibulae with spirals around the central boss are common in Spartan sanctuaries. In the sanctuary of Artemis Orthia, the spiral fibula is the most common and the earliest type, typically found together with geometric pottery. The next, please. The vast majority of the bronze objects discovered in the recent excavations at the southern sector of the Amyklaios were found in black soil layers, showing evidence of burning, together with pottery, animal bones, and other categories of votive offerings. The nature of the depositions strongly suggests that these layers represent ritual waste, possibly resulted from at least 2 large cleaning operations of the hill related to the construction of the 2 successive enclosure walls in the late 8th, early 7th century BC, and again in the later Hike period. The next one. Many bronze objects from the earlier excavations were also found in layers of black soil with charcoal, ashes, animal bones, pottery sherds, and various votive offerings. These layers were most concentrated around the altar and the front of the northeastern part of the archaic enclosure wall. Both Judas and the German excavators observed that the bronze objects were found in disturbed and chronologically mixed layers. According to Kalligas, several ascent pits, meaning bothroi, containing votive offerings, would have existed on the hill surface, although none have been discovered yet. The next one. The so-called black layers are common in many Greek sanctuaries, such as Olympia, Isthmia, Perachora, and Thermos, and they are connected with cult activities such as burnt animal sacrifices, ritual feasts, and offering of votives dating from the geometric period. The black stratum around the Peloponnesian in Olympia contained an enormous number of metal and terracotta finds dating from the 11th to the late 7th or early 6th century BC. These thick layers of dark earth appear either in early contexts that precede the earliest architectural structures or are connected with altars of later phases. The next one. Such a context prompted consideration of issues recently foregrounded in scholarship, including the intentional ritual destruction of bronze objects. The recently published collective volume by Azuras Karsi and Holger Beitinger examines the issue of the fragmentation of copper alloy votive objects in early Greek sanctuaries, focusing among others on the many dismantled and fragmented tripod cauldrons from Olympia. While these actions are open to multiple interpretations, a ritual explanation remains viable. The next one. Among the bronzes from the Amyklaion are likely discarded votive gifts that were intentionally damaged in the sense of a ritual killing, an explanation that, however, is difficult to prove. Ritual destruction may be inferred, for example, for bronze hair rings and seats that appear to have been intentionally folded or compressed before the deposition. The pottery assemblages also indicates deliberate breakage, likely carried out by participants as part of the ritual process. The reduced presence of such items in the overlying layers, along with an increased rise in miniature vessels, possibly reflect a shift in both dedicatory practices and ritual activity. The next one. The excavations of 2013 and 2019 on the hill of Agia Kyriaki brought to light important evidence of a previously unknown metal workshop in the northern part of the sanctuary, which was active from the late geometric to the classical period. In particular, 4 depressions cut into the natural bedrock and varying shape and size were discovered in the area between the monumental north entrance of the sanctuary and the circular stepped altar. Although the fill in all 4 pits has been disturbed by previous excavations, they contained a mix of sandy and black soil with traces of burning, leading to their identification as casting pits. The workshop residues were found scattered across the entire sanctuary area, with greater concentrations on the southern slope of the hill. These residues include numerous highly fragmented clay molds with fold impressions, crucible fragments, slag, iron tools such as chisels and gravers, as well as lead, pencils, and rods. The next, please. The central location of the metallurgical facilities within the sanctuary at Amykles and the lack of evidence for water supply installations suggest that metalworking activity was likely of a temporal character. The varying shapes of the metallurgical pits possibly correspond to different types of products, such as statues, bronze plaques, or even small votive artifacts. Bronze workshop facilities, including casting pits or remains of tools and implements, have been identified at several other sanctuaries across the Peloponnese and beyond, such as Olympia, Isthmia, the archive Hiraeon, Nemea, Ithaca, and Kalapodi. The next one. Of particular note for Laconia are the evidence from the Sanctuary of Apollo Amyklaios at Phoeniki, the substantial collection of bronze artifacts found at the site, and the attribution of at least some of them to Laconian workshops suggest the existence of an active bronze workshop that supplied votive offerings to worshippers from the Perioecic cities of the region. The next. It has been suggested that resources such as copper and ivory were imported into Laconia despite the fact that there was probably some local copper available. It seems that a mine operated close to the Sanctuary of Apollo Amyklaios, and some copper supplies have been reported at Croces and Apithia in central Laconia. However, no scientific analysis of the bronze material has yet been undertaken. The next one. Summing up, the material evidence from the Amykleion suggests that bronze objects constitute a substantial component of the votive assemblage, displaying both diversity and recurring types, with jewellery emerging as one of the most prominent categories. The predominance of figure and earrings underscores their distinctive role in the ritual practices, paralleling analogous votive traditions in other Spartan sanctuaries and beyond. Although other classes of jewellery were also deposited during ritual activity, they appear far less frequently. The next one. While jewellery appeared to have been offered by women, typically to female deities, male divinities occasionally received them as well. Epigraphic evidence further confirms that some dedications were made by men. Many items likely originated as personal adornments, dedicated by girls and women during transitional life events, possibly together with actual garments. The presence of young girls at sanctuaries may also relate to horuses and initiation rites. Literary sources highlight the participation of women and girls in the Hyakinthia festival. Beyond their role in the ceremonial procession from Sparta to Amykles, certain rituals were reserved for female participants. Their involvement in cult is further attested by numerous miniature spindle whorls, interpreted as material traces of textile dedications by women, a tradition likely rooted as early as the 10th century BC. The next one. Some of the bronzes can be dated to the late 10th or early 9th century BC. These, together with the discovery of a substantial corpus of proto-geometric and early geometric pottery, are the only evidence of activity on the hill from this period, as no architectural remains from the early phases have been found. The next. The bulk of the material, however, belongs to the late 8th and early 7th century BC, a period that coincides with the first phase of monumentalization at the Amykleian sanctuary. The new finds from the southern sector of the sanctuary attest to the growing participation of worshippers and the regular performance of rituals, which may have included the deliberate destruction of bronzes and pottery. Later shifts in dedicatory habits, marked by a decline in bronze offerings and the rise of miniature vessels, indicate evolving ritual behavior. The next, it was this one and one more. Finally, evidence for a temporary metal workshop on the hill raises important questions for future research, particularly regarding local production, consumption, and circulation, the role of smiths and craftsmen, and the use of bronze objects, as well as the circumstances of their ritual deposition. The next one. Taken as a whole, the bronze objects from the Sanctuary of Apollo Amyklaios, considered together with other categories of votive material, offer valuable insights into cult activity, dedicatory practices, and artistic production, thereby contributing to a broader understanding of the social and religious dynamics that shaped early Greek sanctuaries. Thank you very much.
There we go, get my mouse back. Thank you so much, Aphrodite. That was incredible. Anyone who's never seen me on this before, Amyklai is my favorite archaeological site anywhere in the world, and I'm so excited every time we get to hear about it because there's always such brilliant, brilliant stuff. We will proceed to the Q&A now, where I will be ably assisted, and I will hand over shortly to our PhD student in the department, Abigail Costello. I was about to take the privilege of chair to ask you about whether the jewellery belonged to women or men or to both, but you answered that just before the end of your paper. So instead, I just wanted to ask quickly, when you mentioned the weapon and armor dedications there, I know you mentioned also Apollo Maliatis. Are the ones at Amyklai mostly what Snodgrass would call raw dedications? Are they real usable ones, or are they miniatures or imitations?
Like Maliatis, although there are many more at the site, there are both. Some of them are of miniature size and some of real size. So yes, the real size is that we can call a raw dedication. But yes, there are both types and different types of armor. Not many pieces, but representative examples of its type.
Thank you so much. Right then, Abby, over to you to run the Q&A.
Thank you, and thank you for a wonderful talk. If anybody has a question, they're more than welcome to either raise their hand or type it in the MS Teams chat. Oh. Sorry, there we go. We have a comment from, excuse me, okay, Muri Andri Kantaka, which says, very interesting, really. Thank you. I liked very much the photos and the explanations are very good.
Thank you.
And then there is another comment. Oh, Catherine, would you like to unmute yourself? And oh, hang on, I've got to unmute you. There we go. Now you can speak.
She's mute. She's mute.
Yeah.
Sorry,
There we
I'll
go.
start again. Thank you for your talk. It's absolutely fascinating. With regard to the hair rings from the early period, do you think it's feasible that they were offerings of hair as well as the ring attached? And secondly, if I could ask a related question, do you think the high concentration of jewellery could potentially suggest a different dedication for the early cult activity, or is that consistent with the later dedication to Apollo?
If I may start with a second one, yes, the jewelry items are mostly dedicated in the transition from the late 8th to the 7th century BC. According to the research, the earlier card of Hyakinthos was introduced earlier than that phase. It has been suggested that miniature vessels, although they are dated also in the same transitional period, but it has been suggested that there were typical dedications to Hyakinthos because they have been found in almost all of heroes' shrines, not only in Sparta and Laconia, but elsewhere. So if we can distinguish these two patterns of dedications, however, my question is that they are both seems to date in the same, almost in the same period. So regarding the herrings, if I understood well, the question is if we have also dedication of hair together. There is no archaeological evidence for this, but it is something that is it is stated in sources, and there are scholars that they suggest that it was such a ritual act to dedicate the herrings together with real hairs, with real hair. Maybe it's the same if we think that some of the clothing ornaments were dedicated together with actual garments. This is also a combination that is also suggested for these offerings.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A wonderful question from Catherine, who is a PhD student at the University of Nottingham and also a member of the centre. We have another question or comment from the chat. Maybe we don't. Oh, yes, sorry, it's just taking a while to come through for me. Dr. Valletta has said, thank you for your very interesting presentation. I guess that the procedure of destruction of the offerings would be an important ritual detail in marking the passage of the dedicated object from human to divine dominion, as the object becomes no longer usable by humans. I'd like to ask to Aphrodite Vlachou her opinion about
the destruction, the intentional destruction. Yes, as I said, this is something very difficult to prove. Because they could just be damaged from the deposition. But there are some pieces that, like the one I had in my slides, that it seems that they have been compressed or they have been squeezed, or although at the Amyklaion there are only isolated pieces, the examples from Olympia is a great case, because there are hundreds of fragments of tripods, mostly handles, but also tripod legs, that they have been intentionally cut off the cauldron. A ritual destruction is the one explanation. The other one maybe is to make a free space for the next votives. So we just put the earlier away, or the melting position. Some of them we can hypothesize that they were reused to produce other offerings. So it's an open discussion. The evidence from the Amyklaion are limited, but looking at Olympia and comparing some pieces, I'm just putting this as a question.
Thank you. We have two more questions. I believe the first comes from Professor Vitsos. I will. There we go. It should be now. Oh, maybe.
Now,
yes, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Aphrodite, for being an excellent representative of the Amykles Research Project. Congratulations. I like the presentation of our material very much, and it's very systematically presented. Concerning fragmentation, I would say because of the majority of the material, we can be more on the side that it's initially a ritual fragmentation. We have another spot where we found a lot of material outside the sanctuary, where additionally this material came to light. So yeah, I think in the final publication, Aphrodite will give us exactly this interpretation of initial fragmentation, ritual fragmentation. But If I may, I would ask Aphrodite on her opinion about belonging to Laconia. So does this material, in terms of Hans Beck's theories, add information about how the sanctuary was perceived? Is this how the sanctuary was perceived in terms of identity and belonging to a wider community and so on and so forth? Thank you.
I think that Amykleion in Laconia, it's if I can say, a unique case, because it's the most enduring sanctuary, and it's among the few that they have a continuous ritual practice from the Mycenaean period. This is one factor that creates a bond for the local communities. This sequence, this unstopped sequence. As far as the material, the votive material is concerned, I think we have both directions. We have pieces that, as you see, they have been found elsewhere in great numbers at Kalapodi, at Olympia, and many other Peloponnesian sanctuaries. And this shows that Amykleion was part of a wider network of religious network and communication network. And this has to do not only with the worshippers, but also with the craftsmen. We have to imagine craftsmen visiting these sanctuaries and changing sites and going from one to another. So this is the outward face of the Amykleion. And then we have the local religious characteristics, that are related with the festival, the Hyakinthia festival, with certain votive offerings which show a local preference. And then we are coming to the local sphere. So I think that Amykleion is both. It has an interregional character, and also is deeply rooted in the Laconian votive traditions and religious traditions. I don't know if I answered.
It was fine. Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. The next question, I believe, is Dr. Hibbler. If you would be able to unmute yourself, which you should be able to do. Hopefully it works.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. That was really interesting and wonderfully presented, very clear and really very informative. Thank you. I just wanted to add on the question of the deformation of material that I'm working on the Menelaon metalwork at the moment, the post-Bronze Age metalwork from the Menelaon, and we have quite a few objects that are not casually deformed or deformed by movement of the earth. It's clearly deliberate, and there's no pattern really to the type of object. It's you could say that vessels are deformed to prevent further use, but that isn't the case in the Menelaon, I don't think. And one other thing I wondered if I could ask you is whether you have evidence of some of the affixes that you showed, which are the repoussé worked pieces of sheet bronze. Is there any evidence of those being from shield affixes or something of that kind?
No such an evidence to associate it with certainty with the seal. There is these tiny holes, but they could be used with in many ways. And there isn't any clear evidence to associate it with with a certain object. Yes.
Yes.
I'm afraid.
I see. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then finally, would Professor Hodkinson like to unmute and ask your question?
Hello, Aphrodite. It's a great pleasure to see you again. And
Me too.
thank you for a really excellent paper. Can I ask you a question about the period of decline of the bronze artifacts? You made it very clear that the majority of bronzes come from the late 8th and early 7th centuries, and that after that there's a shift in dedicatory practices and ritual activities, hence the decline in bronze offerings. Within that period of decline, the late 7th, 6th, 5th centuries, is the decline equal in terms of all the different types of bronze offerings, or are there some bronze offerings that hang on to a greater extent than others do?
Well, the conclusion about this ritual shift was made from the study of this specific material from these ritual depositions. I'm afraid that I don't have the total image about the later material, but I can say more generally that they're lesser than this period. Especially the jewellery, which was the main subject. It seems that they are far more limited because we don't find so much bronze votive objects in the layers with the miniatures, for example. And especially from the north-south sector, where we have stratigraphy and the layers are not disturbed, this is very clear that in the one phase bronze is predominate, and almost suddenly the next phase there are thousands of miniatures and only isolated finds of bronzes. But I'm afraid that I don't have a clear image about the 6th century, for example, because until now we haven't found so many. I think we haven't found bronzes of that period in that layers of these ritual depositions. There are yes. Significantly less.
That's extremely interesting. Well, thank you very much for that clarification. I'll look forward to the publication and seeing all the details.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again for a really excellent talk.
Thank you very much.
And we have another question from Dr. Scarsi. If you would like to unmute yourself, please.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm sorry, but my camera is not working. Hello, Aphrodite, and thank you very much for your paper. Thank you very much for mentioning my work on Olympia on fragmentation. But I don't want to talk about fragmentation. My question is, I'm very fascinated by the presence of metalworking workshops. And I wanted to ask you if you are planning to carry out any archaeometric analysis on your bronzes.
This is exactly the phase that we're trying to do that, because as I said, unlike for example, the lead miniatures where we have some scientific analysis about the legend, the provision. Unfortunately, for the bronze objects, there is no archaeometric analysis until today, if I'm not completely wrong. So we are now at this stage to find the way to do this archaeometric analysis for a representative part of the bronze group of the bronze objects, and I hope that soon we will have some news from this.
Oh, thank you very much. And I have another question. Are you in charge of iron objects as well? And are there iron objects, and which kind of typologies? And
yes, I also studied the iron objects, but I haven't studied them in the so well yet. I started with the bronzes. I can say from the general view that I have that the iron objects are mostly weapons, pieces of armor, and tools. And there are also several iron obeloy. But I have only this general view of this material and not an in-depth study.
No, great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
And then we have another question from Professor Kavanagh. If you would like to unmute yourself, please. There we go.
Well, first of all, again, let me add my warm congratulations to the speaker. That was a tremendous talk, and I greatly enjoyed it. So thank you very much for that. I just wanted to make a small point arising from what the discussion just now, and that is that Hector Cattling mentioned finds of workshop activity from the Zeus Messapius shrine at Dacona. He found traces that bronzes may have been cast there. And should there be research onto the technology of this, that might be another interesting source of information.
Yes, and thank you very much for the note. Yes, I have read this article. Yes,
I'm sure.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you.
And then while we wait for other questions to come through or for hands to raise, I was just wondering if the miniature vessels or the small bronze rings possibly could be associated with child dedications, or if that's not quite the pattern.
I don't know if I'm calling Adrian if he's hearing too, because he is the most sweeter person to talk about the miniatures from the Amykleion. Well, I'm not sure about this. There is his. So if I can I invite him to?
Oh yes, please. You should be able to mute yourself. Yeah, the microphone should work. Oh, there we go.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, could you just repeat the question? I heard are the miniature vases connected to what?
To dedications by children, or even the small sort of bronze rings.
It's a common theory. I will not discard it, but it's there is no proof of it, let's say, and it's not. It may be small. It doesn't mean that it's related to children, and it's quite a lot, and it's a bit everywhere in not only at the Amykleion but in major Laconian sanctuaries. It's a common trend. So no, I cannot say that it's related only to children. only on the sole criteria of the size. So no to me.
Thank you. That's perfect. Thank you. Does anybody else have a question at all? Be that through the chat or by raising their hand. I don't see any questions. Well, thank you, Dr. Vlachou, for your talk. It was thoroughly interesting. And with that, I will pass back to our host, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you very much, Abby, and thank you everyone for your questions. And I think it only falls to me to say thank you one final time to Aphrodite for such a wonderful talk. I have scribbled so many notes that I will be reading back through them for days. But so thank you so much for sharing your research with us today. We have no Sparta Live, no Being Peloponnesian, and no Agia webinar next week. But we do have coming up next Wednesday, the 27th of May, at the earlier time of 1 p.m. Our first ever work in progress specs workshop, which will be looking at warfare in Sparta and the Peloponnese. We have presentations from early career scholars from the USA, from Europe, and from Australia. If you can attend, please do consider coming along. It should be advertised on places like the classics list tonight, so you'll get a link to register. But until then, thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and thank you so much for your questions and comments tonight. And good evening, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks very much. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Ab.
Stop recording. There we go. All good.
I'll end the meeting now.